So our very first podcast, and we're going to be talking about spirits, cocktails, anything that has to do with booze. Boozins is the plural of booze. And I'd like to go around and introduce everybody. So first,
I'm Kevin Willingham. I'm just the general cocktail enthusiast for this night.
Alright, I'm Samm McCulloch. I've bartended for years. I was the general manager of a place called Taste, and I drink a whole lot.
My name's Rick. I'm a chef and cocktail enthusiast.
Hi, I'm Glenn. I like cocktails. I wait tables. Sometimes I make cocktails. Yes.
My name is Elijah Barnes. I've been bartending 7 years. I'm now bar managed Cleveland Heath Restaurant in Edwardsville, Illinois, and I'm a certified specialist of spirits.
fantastic. And you're going to hear a lot of ice and glass and clinking, and that's on purpose. And we're going to be making lots of cocktails today, so that's why you're going to hear that. And what I think the thing we want to talk about first is what the topic of today's podcast is, which is
We're going to be making Manhattans and talking about it. We all brought various amounts of booze we've made several already, but everybody's kind of got their own riff on it. Manhattan is a classic for a very good reason. It's simple. Depending on what you do, usually 2-1-2 or other little bit riff on that, but it's just liquor and it tastes amazing. And there's lots to it, but it's just kind of one of those classics that blends together well.
And since we're going to be talking about kind of what a Manhattan is, we're also going to be sharing some of our favorite Manhattan recipes. So if we could, let's go around the table and talk about the type you guys are all going to make today, and what your twist is and why it's like that. So you want to start, Ted?
Oh, sure. I do a pretty standard Manhattan. I don't like to vary it too much. Maybe sometimes I'll do different bitters, but usually I do a 2-1-2, which I like to stick to because of the general rule of its Manhattan's area code. And I do 2 ounces of a good rye whiskey, I'm using Rittenhouse tonight, and then 1 ounce of a sweet vermouth, and then just 2 dashes of an aromatic bitter. It's kind of the quintessential, I suppose, the base that a lot of people go off before they change something else. And then, of course, garnish with the high-quality, delicious Luxardo Maraschino cherry.
Cool. Sam?
So mine is made with Old Granddad Bonded. I like the bonded, I like the heat that it gives. The Putinez for the vermouth, it's a little more bitter, I think, than most vermouths. And also I do 2 ounces whiskey, 1 ounce vermouth, and then I use angostura for the one that we're currently drinking. I brought a handful of other bitters as well to kind of, so we can talk about that to see what they do. And I do, pairing with the theme of the Putinez, like a little more bitters in mine. So instead of 2 dashes, I might do 4 or 5, depending on kind of the mood I'm in and the size of the bottle that you use.
Okay, I'm making a riff on a Manhattan that I found in David Wonders' book, Imbibe. And it's originally from a book called The Flowing Bowl, and it's from a guy called The Only William. It's from 1891, and so it starts with 2 ounces of rye whiskey. It does have 1 ounce of sweet vermouth, but the main difference is it's got a dash of absinthe, it's got a little bit of maraschino liqueur, and a couple dashes of angostura bitters. So really kind of aromatized and a little bit different riff on Manhattan.
Sounds really good, yeah.
Excellent. So I brought a little variation today. Decided to go with Smith & Cross Navy Strength Jamaican rum as opposed to the typical rye or bourbon. So I did a 3-to-1. I found the normal 2-to-1 that I would go with. It was a little too sweet with the rum. So 3-to-1 with a couple dashes of angostura bitters turned out pretty nice. So that's what I went up to. A little funkier than a traditional. Found it nice.
Fantastic.
I found my favorite Manhattan recipe at one of my favorite St. Louis bars, actually, Eclipse at the Moonrise Hotel, and they use classic Rittenhouse bonded 100 proof rye whiskey and cocchi Vermouth di Torino, which is kind of a resurrected recipe. It's richer in body. It's almost like a heavy sherry, really, but I feel like Rittenhouse bonded is a little light bodied, but has a really nice kick of spice. So the over-the-top rich vermouth really helps to balance that out. And then I'm just a sucker for classic angostura bitters in there too. 2-to-1 ratios, pretty simple, but I like to know you're drinking a hearty cocktail when you pick it up and take a sip, so this kind of pulls through for me.
Very cool. It sounds really good. We're going to be right back after a word from our imaginary sponsor, and we're going to turn the mic over to each person who's going to be making their Manhattan. So we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Elijah Barnes, and we're going to be making a Manhattan today. We've got Rittenhouse 100 proof bonded rye whiskey, cocchi, Vermouth. Why is there so much trouble with that word? Vermouth di Torino, which, as I'm slyly reading the back of the label right now, says it's resurrected from 1891 from the House of Cocchi. And then just classic Angostura bitters, because the Torino is a little sweeter, a little bit bigger bodied, so I like to crank it up to counterbalance with the overproof spicy rye and the Angostura bitters. Really simple, classic 2-to-1 ratio. So let me get my apparatus going. I don't know if you can tell from the backdrop, it's not classic bar, but we are quite well equipped despite that. So, your handy OXO. If I spill anything, it's because this isn't the first Manhattan that was made today. Right.
It's also good luck.
Yeah. If I spill this vermouth, do I have to throw it over my right shoulder or anything?
Twice.
2-to-1 and classic bitters. I'm using all the ice. None for you. Stir. It kind of depends on the type of ice you have. This is pretty solid ice, so you can give it a good 20 to 30 seconds, I would say. I choose these spirits because of all the Manhattans I've had, this is the one where I really felt like I was drinking a big classic cocktail. I feel like most people go for Manhattans because they're boozy, they pack a punch, and it's a good drink to start a night or end the night on because it'll help you unwind or get in the partying mood. So you'd garnish that with whatever preference of cherry or lemon twist you might want. I like mine up. I feel like when you're drinking a really booze-forward cocktail, you want to not have it on ice unless you plan on shooting it, like I've seen some people do. But you generally want to unwind with it. And if you're leaving it on ice, it gets a little easier to drink, but you're losing those subtleties, you're losing the flavor. And if you're using something like a rye that already has a natural spice, you know, you don't want that to get just watered out. So, nice cocktail glass, or even in a rocks glass like that if you don't want to go pinkies out. But I feel like it really it helps to convey the classic sense of the cocktail.
So I broke away from the classic mold. I didn't bring bottles like everyone else, so if anyone's watching a video, it's less interesting. But I went with Smith & Cross, Navy Strength Rum, did Carpano Antica Sweet Vermouth. Am I saying that right? Mm-hmm. Excellent.
I was hoping somebody would bring that.
Yeah. And you know, it sounds silly, but when I make a drink like this, I probably put 4 dashes of Angostura, but I really do it to smell more than anything. I blend my spirits, you know, aside from the ice, and when it smells where I want it, that's when I stop. So. Pour it out of my nude girl flask, or partially nude girl flask.
Classing it up.
Yeah, super. So this is Navy Strength Rum. Do you know specifically where the Smith & Cross is at? It's like 57% or something along those 54.7%. So I'm maybe not quite as worried about dilution as these guys are when I'm stirring it. So vessel. And just to lighten it up a little bit, I'm going to throw a little lemon twist on there. Some nice oils in there.
Tell everybody what that does for it, especially the rimming it like
To me, it really, the aromatic profile changes pretty drastically and really just kind of, to me, lightens up the whole drink. Also, I guess you're adding oil to it, so it would add a savory aspect as well, but I don't know, I always just find it's a nice aromatic component.
Well, it's like classic, you know, home just cooking in general. It hits the nose first.
Yeah.
So you taste it first with your smell.
And of course, it's Jamaican rum, so it's a lot, you know, Jamaican rum's kind of funky. Got Rick and I, as we were talking earlier on break, made a Negroni with the Smith and Cross, and I was joking, it kind of smelled like feet, or you know, like you know, like cat box thing going on. But when you taste it, it's really delicious. So I'm pretty happy with it. I thought it'd go good in a Manhattan. Of course, it's not a Manhattan, but hey, but who's here? I'm not here to follow rules.
And I think too the lemon, expressing the oils of that, especially for this drink, kind of hides a lot of those flavors that people will probably be afraid of initially when they're smelling
Right,
it.
and
like
the
you said.
smell, yeah.
And so I think it covers it, but it blends well when you drink it.
Makes it a little more approachable. in
Yeah.
general.
Yeah, very cool. Awesome.
Doesn't make you fear it as much.
Josh, you want to take a taste? You're the video guy.
You have to like get in here.
That's
and
actually that's delicious.
It is delicious. I'm really happy.
Oh, and for anybody,
That's really cool.
try the Negroni too with
Yeah.
Smith and Cross.
Oh,
It was
okay.
also really good. And for me, it's more of a like cold wintertime drink. You know, with that overproof rum, it's really good.
Awesome. And did that one have a name?
No, it was just something I kind of thought of. I mean, I'm sure it's been done before,
Yeah.
but
What's
but
like a really awesome city in Jamaica?
Kingston.
Yeah.
You're the only one you
Anyone
know.
knows.
That's terrible.
The Trojan cocktail.
I really cheated today because I brought a pre-diluted, pre-chilled cocktail ready to go because I didn't want to deal with all the stuff I had. But I did a variation on Manhattan that I found in David Wondrich's book, Imbibe, and it's actually from an old cocktail book called the Flowing Bowl from a guy named William Schmidt, and his like pen name was The Only Real William. So just an old cocktail book, and his variation on a Manhattan I think was pretty typical of the time because they used a lot of I think they were a lot more limited than we are now in what they had to work with, and so absinthe showed up a lot, maraschino liqueur showed up a lot, and so it was something that they would add in little dashes to different cocktails to sort of just add something new. And so this is 2 ounces of the Rittenhouse Rye with an ounce of vermouth. I used the Dolan Sweet Vermouth for this. And then there is 2 dashes of angostura bitters, just a little dash of absinthe, and then about a half teaspoon of maraschino liqueur. So just adds kind of like a really sort of little bit of floral note, a little more aromatized, just very different from sort of any other Manhattan I'd had before. And then the recommendation is instead of a cherry with this one, a little bit of lemon peel. So just go ahead and express that over the top of the drink. So that's it. That's the overflowing bowl version of the Manhattan.
Awesome. And what is that cool beaker on that you brought the pour out that you just poured out of?
The Yari glass?
Oh, the Yari glass. Yeah.
Okay.
So this is just a mixing glass. It's from what's the
Cocktail King?
the Cocktail Kingdom. It's their sort of mixing glass that you
Awesome.
use.
Very cool.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
how's it taste?
Shitty like your face.
Great.
It's pretty good.
I love it when the fourth wall gets not broken. Shitty. That's our T-shirt. Our T-shirts for our podcast are gonna be. It's gonna be. What are we called again? Madco Spirit. I am making that T-shirt. I swear. For everyone. Everyone gets that T-shirt tomorrow.
There's a touch of like nuttiness in there. What it was?
That's why I was
So my Manhattan, I'm making with Old Granddad bonded whiskey, bourbon, Punti Mez, and Angostura bitters, and Tsp Maraschino cherries. So for mine, kind of the same proportions as most people. I'm doing 2 the bourbon and 1 of the sweet vermouth. I like mine with a little extra bitters, so I'm gonna do 4 dashes, maybe 5. It's a new bottle. The new bottles, they don't give you as much in the beginning, and so I'll go ahead and stir that.
I feel like the large bottles of Angostura are great because I fucking love Angostura, but
Yes.
they're definitely a lot less
Thank you.
controlled than the smaller bottles.
Really?
Your dashes vary a lot more than.
All right. Okay.
Tell us about those awesome things. You guys were doing those one day at Cleveland Heath when I came in, and you gave me one, and then I wanted to pour them over my head. They were so
Okay.
good.
So they're maraschino cherries. They're dry cured in sugar. They're super incredibly rich. They're very delicious. Instead of having like the super like sugary like flavored maraschino cherries that most people get that are bright red, these have I feel like a lot more natural flavor and sweetness to them. They're really expensive, but they're totally worth every dollar.
Agreed. Awesome.
And they're the very, very, very best when you immediately open the can and take the first bite. They're always good, but that first cherry is awesome.
That's the part. Gonna come out.
Delicious.
I don't know. Do we have a name for this one yet, or no? Is this just your
this
deal?
is just
Okay. Afterwards, we'll have a naming party, and then
Oh, cool, yeah.
I'll flash the name on the podcast over the.
and we'll be like
Yeah.
drunk enough then to have like 3 ideas.
Punt your granddad.
Well, these guys are really creative. Now they're just
Wow.
wasted.
That is, you know what's different about this one than the others, and I don't know if it's the P, starts with the P. What is that? again?
Punti Mez?
Yeah, Puntimez is that. This is like a completely like. I don't know that it's crisp and it's very even keeled. Like
Yeah.
there's nothing coming forward. It's very that's really cool. That's
Perfectly
delicious.
balanced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Perfectly
worked out well too
balanced.
because like a little more corn in the bourbon, but the Punti Mez dries out like
Mm-hmm.
Amaro. And
Yeah.
Just, like, clears the palate.
That is tasty.
Isn't it like you want to take another drink?
Yeah.
A lot of them, for me, a lot of Manhattans are too sweet, and so
Yeah.
I think that's why I like the extra bitters and the drier, more bitter.
I was in Louisville, Kentucky.
Oh, that is
at
dry.
Churchill
Holy
Downs,
Jesus.
and they had Woodford had a
That's crazy.
Manhattan party,
Okay.
like a thing, and so they had 3 different Manhattans, and it was a cocktail competition. And then the winner went to New York to do it, whatever. But the thing I noticed about all of their stuff is because it wasn't like only industry people that they were very sweet, like so people were like,
Yeah.
you know, and I don't know if the sweetness encourages that or whatever, but you know, when they're less sweet, to me they taste like more of a, I don't know, like a solid real cocktail. You know,
Yeah.
it's not just sugar you're tasting. So
And I feel like,
Good.
you know, if they're too sweet, people can only drink so much. Something like this, like if you're a bartender, they're maybe gonna have 3 or
Yeah.
4.
that's awesome.
Okay, I'm just making, like I said at the beginning, a standard base Manhattan. It's the perfect one that if you're not sure if you're really gonna like a Manhattan, you're not sure if you like strong cocktails, it's probably the best way to go. It's not as crazy as everybody else's, it's kind of boring, but it works. So it's just 2 ounces of a nice rye, preferably. You can do a bourbon, of course. I just use Rittenhouse because it's a strong 100 proof bottled in bond rye. And then I'm just using Martini and Rossi sweet vermouth. Nothing special, but again, it's really light. It's probably the sweetest one you can get. Another good one in the same price range is Dolan Sweet, but you'll find this one more often. So if you're not really sure if you're gonna like them, it's just good to go with. And then any type of aromatic bitters works. I have these little Bitter Truth ones just because they're easier to bring, but of course angostura is great. And just nice, good little 2 drops of that. If you want more, add more. And another good riff to do is, on my finger, little orange bitters instead, if you want to do that. So, and then just get some ice. More here. And then I also garnish with the Luxardo cherries. It's much better than, as Sam was saying, the atomic red ones. The price is definitely prohibitive, and you can kind of make your own if you want to try it, called Brandy Cherries. There's plenty of recipes on the internet, but Luxardo is a great brand to start with. It's just not dyed red and with a bunch of sugar. So, Manhattan.
Cool.
How is it?
I'm sure.
Try it.
It's a lot sweeter than a lot of the other ones that came around tonight. You taste the rye more, still on top of it. It does especially this one. Dolan hides a little bit more, but like I said, that's a very base sweet vermouth, so you taste the rye a lot. So if you're big into your whiskey, that's a good one to go to, because it still makes a Manhattan, but you still really taste your whiskey.
Kevin and I were talking before this started about what proof to use for the Manhattan. Like, is a higher proof going to be better for a Manhattan? Did you guys has anyone discussed that yet?
I was actually reading about that today, and they, they talk about how, of course, rye was in fashion when these drinks were invented, and so rye is kind of the classic thing to drink, and that's what's preferred. But really, proof is more important, and so if you have a choice between bonded bourbon like Old Grandad versus an 80 proof rye, you're probably going to want to go with the Old Grandad, regardless of taste, just because that extra alcohol really kind of makes the drink. So
yeah, I agree. And if you're gonna go with a rye and you're not really sure if you're gonna like it, don't start with a kind of mid-tier. Probably start with a nice bonded one, because something like that's a little lower on the scheme, you're gonna get a lot more wood flavor. And for a lot of people, that's going to turn you off immediately. It's oily almost. And it's not. This will be a lot crisper because it's such higher proof. So.
Very cool. Are these extra?
Yeah, those
people brought.
Yeah, bitters that I brought. You could make the same Manhattan with the same rye and the same vermouth and use different bitters, and it's a completely different cocktail. Just that one thing. Just like a couple little, drops or dashes, like we said, and it is a different cocktail. The same as we've had different, base spirits and vermouths that changes it, and that's something else you can do too to kind of create your own, or be adventurous, or.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And Fee Brothers, good.
Yeah. So especially in this area, they're the easiest to come by. Most liquor stores like the Friar Tuck's and the Randalls around here will have those. Their Bittermens is a good one. Bitter Cube is another good brand. There's all kinds now, and everyone's making them. So there's a lot more available than there were, even a couple of years ago. And there are definitely some bad ones out there, but these are pretty good.
Awesome. So the next thing we're going to talk about is since our industry is so relies so much on trends. I mean, that's what people look for. People look for the next thing. What's the cool next thing people are going to use? Something cool you saw someone else use. So our topic is going to be the favorite new or new to you ingredient, cocktail, or spirit. So it can be a mixer, juice, wine, liqueur. Let's talk about that. What's something new that you've been exposed to lately?
Anyone want to go first?
No. Mine was actually it's not something that's new at all. It's over 100 years old, but it's new to the market, new to the area, and new to the United States, and it's Suze, which is bitter liqueur. It's from France. It's got a lot of quinine in it, so it's got that real kind of deep bitterness. but it's got a lot of herbs as well, and it's like bright yellow. I mean, it's like the cap on the Angostura bottle.
It's
like,
like
and
Munch
it
Pea.
turns anything.
That's right.
Anything you put it in, it's like Gatorade green
Wow.
or Gatorade yellow. But it's the one thing that to me was really different about it is that it's not just bitter and it's not just aromatized like those other spirits. It's got this really interesting earthiness to it. That's like it's like eating a beet, or like it's got that kind of it's like there's dirt in your mouth or something. Weird.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And I feel like around here you don't get our soil's like very like clay heavy. But if you're ever just like in a place that's like dry and it's dirt and it's like windy and you get it in your mouth, but it's weird because it's like dry dirt. Like the wet dirt is a different flavor.
Very cool.
Yeah.
But it's good in a cocktail. It's good as like sort of an aperitif, a little bit of soda water, or whatever if you want to dilute it a bit. It can be a little bit sweet on its own, but just kind of over ice, it's really good.
I've heard a lot of people using it for like a Vesper because it's like the closest to like a Pinot Noir.
Sure.
They don't make anymore. It's just
Right.
a Lait Blanc, which is super sweet. But-
Yeah.
That's actually one of the things that came to the top of my mind talking about new ingredients was Tempest Fuji Spirits, who are kind of resurrecting a lot of classic recipes for just liqueurs and aperitifs and things. I guess kind of like the Vermouth de Torino. But one of the things they did was like a remake of Quina Lillet sort of deal. And
Yeah.
it's very quinine heavy, it's very similar, but not as earthy. It's more like straightforward, I guess. Like Glenn and I have been toying with it at home, making a ton of Vespers, and I'm addicted to them now. But
Vesper's great.
it's just like a half an ounce, and it's so bizarre because you get all this body up front with like perceived sweetness, and then just as quick as
Bone
taste
fucking
that
dry.
gone.
Yeah,
like
It's
Really?
the only
absolutely,
thing I've ever
yeah.
had that I'm like, it is bone dry, but like, it's not. There is residual sugar, but it's like, it just sucks it all out of your, and
Yeah.
like the back palate bitterness from it's incredible.
I think the name they settled on was Le Evian d'Or.
And
They changed the name.
speaking of all these things, I know a lot of like the bartenders that have a lot of money to do things now, not your average bartender, but like the famous ones that win contests and write books, are really like doing a lot of research, reading old books, and resurrecting a lot of a whole bunch of like spirits that that aren't made anymore. So whenever you're reading a Jerry Thomas book and you're like, what the hell is this? Like there's a product that actually like fits that space now.
Yeah,
Which
which
is
is like
pretty
a company
incredible.
that's doing the Boker's bitters now, so you can actually have Boker's bitters.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Anything else? Any other?
Oh, but-
No,
Anybody.
please.
So one that is probably not necessarily new to this table, but I think is something that is, I guess depending on where you are in the world, it's new. But like fresh squeezed juice and like its effect on a cocktail,
Oh, yeah.
is incredible. I mean, you see people and they buy gallon jugs of lemon juice or lime juice or whatever, but whenever you squeeze your own juice and like the freshness of it is really incredible. And I think it's,
I mean, yeah, that's how I started at home when I first started trying to do all this. I'd go buy the little tiny bottles and stuff like that, and it works. It's definitely, that itself is better than buying sour mix. Never buy sour mix. It just ruins everything you make.
So I used to work at the Royale, and
Yeah.
they had this big silver juicer machine thing. I don't even know what it was, but is that the same thing? Like they put fruit in it? And then,
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, because that thing was amazing.
Yeah, I know.
That's what they made their cucumber cocktails with that,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
example. And
And it is.
like gin and cucumber. I hate cucumbers unless you put gin in it.
cucumbers.
And then gin is amazing, yeah. Or,
Yeah, it is.
or in a port burr, which is the best thing ever invented.
And especially if somebody's listening to this, right now, and they're interested in it because they want to make cocktails at home, it's way easier to juice your own juice at home. I mean,
Right.
you're making 1 or 2 cocktails at a time, and so it's an ounce or 2 of juice, and so it's no big deal. You buy a couple lemons or limes or
When you're
whatever.
grocery shopping, just throw some citrus in.
When you're
there.
talking,
Just
you're
a
talking
couple of
quantity in a
$5.
bar.
I mean, and it's good for you too, so you might as well have it.
Yeah, when you're talking quantity in a bar,
booze with
if we
some
can do
lemon
it,
juice is
if
good
we can
for
do
you.
fresh
Right, it
juice,
sure is.
we're doing tons of quantity. You guys can do it at home. It's not a big
Absolutely.
deal.
Yeah, I mean, the thought is kind of intimidating probably to a lot of people who are like, hearing about some giant commercial juicer or whatever, but they make really simple, small handheld juicers. They're called Beehive juicers. You can get one for like $15 or less. And
I
that's a
paid
good way to start.
$1 whole for my juicer at my house.
Or you
Yeah.
can spend a lot.
I've
Go
seen
way out there.
I've seen a lot of like
100
schnapps and stuff like that
pennies.
around here. They'll have them sitting just hanging right there next to the lemons and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
OXO makes them and stuff like that.
They make
but
yellow for the lemons.
They do, yeah. they make ones that are for both. and
Unless
stuff.
you get the steroid limes. then use the lemon.
Big Myers.
Yeah.
Any more before we wrap up?
I've been using a lot of Saint Germain lately, and obviously that's not new at all. But I just decided one time to grab it, and I think that is one of the people don't know what to do with it because it's called elderflower, and no one touches elderflower anymore. But it's one of those perfect mixers to so many things. You put it in a Collins, either vodka or a gin Collins, Tom Collins, or you put it with your. I actually bought a Fever Tree tonic that had elderflower in it already and stuff like that. It's floral and sweet, but it takes a backseat to everything. It's great. It's kind of like maraschino liqueur. You can replace your sweetener with it a lot of times, and it's really good. It's cost prohibitive, but
I think when they came out, they really showed a lot of people that there's certain things that can just brighten up a cocktail.
Yeah,
it's just one of those easy ingredients. It's like
just a splash of it and it changes your whole
It
drink.
makes a lot of cocktails friendly for people.
Yes, it is expensive, but a little goes a long way.
Oh, yeah,
exactly.
I mean, you
that
pay
bottle's
that.
going to last you a long time.
You pay that $30 for that bottle, but nothing calls more than a teaspoon or a half ounce.
Right.
You're gonna use that for half a year
And-
before you use that.
Yeah, so speaking of, it's one of those ingredients where you can stick to almost any traditional recipe for a cocktail and add a half ounce or a bar spoon of it and then make
A whole new thing.
an incredibly different cocktail.
Yeah.
But and I feel like that's how your creativity gets started. You have these 5 kind of safe things, and then you find something like that you can add to almost anything and make it still taste really, really great.
Yeah.
And then from there you can branch out and try new things, and then you develop a palate for that as well.
Plus, as any spirit company will tell you, it's the best bottle design in the
it's
last
Oh, it's not
50 years.
Is there a bottle here?
Yeah, it's right over there. I mean,
Okay.
literally every client I've ever had has been like,
A bottle
it's like
at
Saint
Bin
Germain.
51.
I'm like, yeah.
They have Saint Germain at Bin 51.
The first one I bought, we came home and tripped on the stairs and just dropped it.
Oh.
And all the little corners cracked, but that bottle stayed perfectly intact. I was so upset.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
no, it's great.
Between that and Chambord Liqueur, those are both look like the holy hand grenades from
Oh,
Monty
yeah.
Python. They're very.
You gotta have Chambord too.
Yeah. Awesome. One more new trend I saw that was amazing is someone ordered a Jack Daniels, where we talked about how good Simple Jack Daniels were really good, and they
doesn't
put
suck.
this stuff called Diet Coke with it. And I was like, that sounds amazing. I wonder what that is, because I really think Diet Coke. I don't, drink anything diet. So anyway, sorry. Were you gonna have
Oh no, I just so there's a company, a spirits company, and they're called St. George. And
yeah.
so they started out as vodka, and they sold that off, and now they're doing gin and rum and whiskey. Or are they doing a scotch? Is it?
They
I don't
have
think they do
whiskey,
Scotch.
like rye whiskey. I think it's a rye malt, and then they've got their brandies going now
The
too.
brandy.
They've done in back when they started with a Scotch style whiskey that
Okay.
they used to make that was it's been around for a little bit. But.
And they're one of those. They're coming out with new things all the time, and they do an incredible job at everything they make. It's
Yeah.
and the people that are doing it are really awesome and really relatable. I think they just came out with this rum, and so the rum's really cool. The sugarcane is grown in Southern California. And they bring it up, and it's olives and truffles, and it's so big and so huge. And I think it's one of those mind-blowing things. You're like, oh man, this is rum.
Doesn't taste like any rum you've ever
It's
had.
not like
Yeah.
Bacardi or Captain Morgan. You're like, oh shit, this tastes like sugar cane.
Right.
It's
Drink more of this shit.
They need more.
Your stocks are too
The
comfortable.
thing I like about St. George too is that they're really smart about the things they make. They don't make something that's super overcrowded or super trendy right now. It's it's almost calculated to the type of product they come out with next.
Yeah.
Right.
One of those companies you kind of want to see what they're doing next.
They're trendsetters, not followers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they were.
maybe they can be one of our
Unofficially, or maybe officially now, they were
Yeah.
the first craft distillery in the United States too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't know that.
They've
They've
been
been
around a long
rolling
time.
since
I don't know,
1980.
81 or
Yeah.
82. They've been around.
And they have, from what they say, they have hundreds of projects in the warehouse, and they just release the top 0.1% sort of deal.
Yeah.
But I do have a lot of respect for them. And the thing that blows my mind It's not that like their products are so great, or I mean, it does, but they only distill everything one time. They just
Wow.
nail it right
Nice,
off the bat.
that's
Like
good.
they're that good at what they
There's
do.
way too many of them that do,
Yeah.
like, you know, 4 distilleries.
Yeah,
before.
why brag about?
Dodecahedral
And then just
distill-
throw other flavors
Yeah,
back in there
right.
and do it again.
Yeah.
I mean, it tastes fine, but
Right.
you're losing a whole bunch of, you know, what you started with.
I mean, I think there's a trend now. It's like everybody wants 20 to 25 to 30-year-old stuff, but then like Bibb and Tucker is a 6-year-old bourbon. That's one of my
Oh, yeah.
favorite sweet caramely things right now, and it's like ages and everything. You
No,
know, it's
no.
like or the amount of distillings and everything. It's making it right. You know,
It's making
so
it right the first time.
there's a lot of people doing some cool stuff, ignoring those trends, which is cool. So, anybody?
I do want to lead back to what Sam said about fresh juices real quick, and from a service standpoint, keeping an open dialogue with your guests about what you're doing, because if somebody orders a gimlet from you and they're over 60 years old, chances are what they want is Rose's lime juice.
Oh, yeah.
And
Have
so
it.
then you have to have a conversation every single time somebody orders one of those, maybe not classic cocktails, but like, you know, cocktails all of our parents.
If you were alive in the 50s,
Ordered.
you drank giblets.
And so the reality is those people, they might like a real gimlet with fresh lime. Those people, yeah. A real gimlet with fresh lime juice is delicious. But if that's not what you're after, that's not what you're after.
Right.
So there has to be kind of an open dialogue when it comes to
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, my favorite thing to do when I'm at any bar is to find out what the person behind the bar likes to make, because then it's going to be probably the best thing you know what I mean? Like if that's the influencer, you know,
Yeah.
the person behind the bar is the influencer.
Yeah, if you go to that place in the summer and their top menu thing is mojitos every summer, they don't want to make that for you. It's gonna taste
Right, yeah. It's a special, so they probably did a good twist on it, but still, it's just like if you get ink, it's like, well, I want your twist on it, not mine, because I want you to have some fun doing it. It's the same thing, and I think I felt like that when I was working the bar too. It was like when they trusted me, I'm gonna make them a better thing. You know what I mean? It's like, I think that's with anything, but I love that part of it you said. It's like, knowing who your customer is, it's like if they ask for a certain thing, you can tell that, hopefully what they're gonna want. So unless they're babyface Finster from Bugs Bunny and they're really only 7 years old, that they look like they look like they're 7 years old, but they're actually 50, and joke only the 47-year-old
reference there.
guy.
No, that's no, I was just thinking like, holy, I never would have remembered that guy until you just said it.
A cigar? A tattoo? So, all right, we only have time for one more thing if anybody's got it, and if not, we'll I think all you guys. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I just want to say, kind of going off of what Glenn was saying, I think, the reality is this is a really fun time to be into cocktails because there's been a big sea change in the last 10 or 15 years, and people have so much more knowledge than they did. And, if you went to a bar, the reality is if you went to a bar, Jim and I were just talking about this, if you went to a bar 15 years ago in most major cities and you ordered a lot of these drinks that we talk about, half of it's coming out of a gun,
Right.
or out of a bottle of pre-made mix.
It's true.
And that's not the reality anymore anywhere, and that's pretty cool.
And it's true. And on that, fresh ingredients make a big difference. People are making grenadine in-house now. And I made someone not too long ago a Cosmo. And people were so in tune to the idea that a Cosmo is this pretty much thing that just looks like straight cranberry juice. And it came out in, the nice kind of effervescent pink color. And it's a totally different experience. That's a big thing. It's the same thing as, the big cooking renaissance, 15 years ago with all the TV shows. If you use something that's not really that hard to get down at your grocery store and take the 10 extra seconds to cut it and do it right then, it's a whole different ballgame.
Absolutely. I just think this resurgence in artisanal things has been the greatest thing to happen to this planet, because it's like, seriously, you could not go to the grocery store or a place like Bin 51 Wine and Spirits in Edwardsville, Illinois, who's been so gracious to help host us, but you could not get any of this stuff 10 years ago even, and now you can, and it's just such a better world.
I was thinking when I was getting ready today, like how upset I was about like the temperance and prohibition, and I was so upset because like where would we be right now had that not happened? But then if that had never happened, we wouldn't be doing this.
Right.
Like
Right,
it
yeah.
wouldn't be exciting right
Exactly.
now because it would.
Yeah.
She also hadn't
Sure.
eaten when she left the house. As we talked about earlier, she gets really pissed when she hasn't eaten.
That's true.
Right on. Well, listen, thanks everyone, and
Thank you.
we'll see you
Yeah.
guys for the next podcast in 2 weeks. And thanks to Ben51 and Jim for hosting us and let us be 5 minutes late getting out of his hair. And we'll see you guys next time. Thank you.
Perfect.
All right.